It's the first day of August, which is the same for many of us as when the kids see Christmas merchandise in the stores for the first time each year. But this year is different here. No, not because expectations of the Saints are as low as they've been in any preseason since the 1990s. Instead, today we celebrate the 50th birthday of the greatest building ever built. The greatest building ever built, Derry? Really? That's right. I said it. Break out the champagne, the birthday cakes, and whatever else. We'll have some pics to show you, and we'll talk about the special section coming up in the Times-Picayune and The Advocate with Saints editor Zach Ewing this morning. And of course, we will talk Saints as I will share with you some of the ridiculousness going around as some pundits are already writing off Tyler Shough just 10 days into camp. Gotta love it, baby. Gotta love it. Are you ready for some fun? Well, let's kick off the Dattitude podcast. Yes. That means right now, dummy.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is. Or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? Do you remember the first time you walked into the Superdome? Most likely when you walked in the first time, called the Louisiana Superdome. You know, I was trying to think about that. Zach reached out to me and told me about the special section we're doing. Wanted to know if we want to do a show on it, or at least spend a nice a chunk of time on it. And I said, absolutely, we'll do it. I think it's great. I am biased. It is the greatest sports building, in my opinion, that's ever been built. I don't care if you don't agree with me. Doesn't make a difference. But I was trying to think of the first time that I walked in there. Now, I remember things that I went to back in the early 80s. I was doing concessions back in like 1980, 81. LSU was playing in the Dome. LSU basketball played in the Dome. The first thing I absolutely know that I was there as just a fan was the 1982 National Championship game, Michael Jordan. Got a picture of that. That I was trying to think, did I go to any Saints games in the 70s in the Dome? I have to think that I did. I just don't remember them. I mean, maybe it's easy to forget. I know I went to Tulane Stadium, so the chances are that I went to the Dome between 75 and 81. I had to have gone to a Saints. I just don't remember. I mean, so I don't know. So the answer for me is I do not remember the first time that I walked into the Superdome. I remember the first time I walked, what's my second favorite sports venue? It's probably Wrigley. Not probably. It is. It's Wrigley Field. I remember the first time I walked in Wrigley Field, but I was like 27 years old, so it's a lot different. Anyway, we're going to have plenty of time to reminisce this morning into this afternoon, I'm sure, on Dattitude, episode number 397, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, August the 1st, 2025. It is the first day of August in just 1 week from show number 400. That is right, show number 400. Next Friday, the same time, the same bat channel. Jim Henderson, the great Jim Henderson, will be on with us for show number 400. I'm really looking forward to that. He has not been on the show previously. I'm always excited when we get a new guest. It's always fun, someone that hasn't been on before. And who better than Jim Henderson, longtime voice of the New Orleans Saints. Pigs have flown, baby. Pigs have flown. The New Orleans Saints are going to the Super Bowl. Yeah. We'll have a pick or two of that in there, I'm sure, in our picks. I got a entire, I was going to do it as a slideshow, but I decided to try to fit them on one screen. So again, when Zach comes on, I guess about 11:20, he's going to come on when he can. He's got some stuff going on, but I believe it'll be about 11:20. If you don't know this already, if you're new to the show, I am your host, Jim Derry. My name's on the show. It took me 35 years to get my name on a show. And who knows? It might not be on a show in another week if we don't start, getting y'all fired up. Getting fired up! Do a whole season. Maybe the Saints will shock us. Maybe it'll be maybe Gabe Henderson will be wearing a Saints jersey at the end of the football season. Did y'all I made the rounds yesterday. I was on Eric Asher's show yesterday, Inside New Orleans. You can find it WLAE TV, also on YouTube. And then I went on last night, 10:35, Final Bet. And Garland Gillen and I were Gabe Henderson came up. I gave a shout out to Gabe and let him know that at the end of the season, when the Saints win those 10 games, baby, he's going to buy himself a Saints jersey. He's going to wear it on the show, and he's going to give it away to a regular. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. Spend his own money on it. Better be making some big bucks over there at sportsbookreview.com. You know what is special about this show? It's not just today. We don't just do this today. We don't do what we're going to do today. We do it every day. You know, Mono E Monday is when we talk to the commenters. Yeah, we talk to the commenters every day. We talk to the Dattitude family every day. You could be a part of the show. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. You can type in your comment, whether you watch it on YouTube, whether you watch it on Facebook. We're going to share some comments in just a moment. And if you're watching after the fact, we're not live anymore. You found us. You're like, who is this dude? I want to reach out and give him a comment because I don't agree with him. Tyler Shough's a bum, you bum. Okay, well, you can find me on X at Jim Derry Jr., or you can email me at jderry@theadvocate.com. I'll probably, most likely, talk about your comment on Monday's show if you talk to me after the fact. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed, see, I'm trying to make new slides for this, by the way. If you haven't subscribed, there it is. If you're just watching and you see it, our new slides, please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube channel. That's where the Dat family lives. And give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. It only takes a second. Hit the like button. All right. Time to talk about what is important this morning. Again, Zach Ewing come on the show. We're not just going to celebrate the Dome. You see the words on there. Celebrate 50 years of the Superdome. Is that hard to believe? It is for me. It has changed a lot over the years. I mean, I'm trying to think of, Madison Square Garden has been around forever. You try to think of the sports venues that have been around forever. I think that's the 5th oldest NFL stadium that is still out there. Other, some of these baseball stadiums that are just historic in nature. Wrigley Field, I think 1914. I think Fenway Park was 1917. Chavez Ravine has been around since the 60s, either the late 50s or early 60s. I can't remember. Dodger Stadium. So there are obviously Madison Square Garden. I don't know when Madison Square Garden was built, but it's been around forever. Again, there are some football stadiums, but there's just something about the Dome. I'm biased. I get it. I know. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. Talk about the Times-Picayune and Advocate special section. That is not why I'm doing this show, by the way. Just to sell the special section. I am doing it legitimately because I want to celebrate the Dome's 50th anniversary. I believe the first event in the Dome, I believe it was August 6th, 1975. The Saints played the then Houston Oilers in a preseason meaningless. That's back when they played 6 preseason games a year. Can you imagine? 6 preseason games a year? I get it. We did things differently back in the day, but why? Like, who decided we should play 6 preseason games a year? They actually took them fairly seriously, too. It was a lot different than now. The starters would play. Sometimes the starters would play the whole game. They would play them as real games. And at some point, they realized this is really kind of dumb if we're not counting them. Maybe we should just play 4 and have 16 regular season games instead. Think about that. They had 6 preseason games and 14 regular season games. That's crazy. I mean, a third of their season or whatever it was, I'm not a mathematician, obviously, between a third and a quarter, whatever number that is, was preseason. It's preseason. The season would end in like the middle of December. You'd have, I know before the Super Bowl, I think the NFL championship games were in December. I think one of the famous NFL championship games, maybe it was I don't remember exactly which one, but one of the maybe it was Giants and Colts. It was on New Year's Eve. Crazy to think that, and now it lasts into the second week of February. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Dome in the early days and our special section and show you a nice little, some pictures there. And then we're We're going to actually get into Saints early here before Zach even comes on, because I'm sure we're going to get some comments on that. Some just ridiculous, absurd, in my opinion, absurd comments from the peanut gallery. And not just fans. I mean, we expect fans to say dumbass things, okay? We fans are going to say, it doesn't matter. I mean, people, if they are on the Spencer Rattler train, Shough could do X, Y, Z, and just like back in the day, last year, they hated Derek Carr. They wanted Spencer Rattler. Doesn't make a difference. Some things that fans say, you expect them to be absurd. Oh, I lost viewers. People don't like when I say stuff like that. If you're not saying exactly what I want you to say, I ain't listening to this show. I mean, that's what it is. That's why some of the fanboy podcasts, there are multiple ones, by the way. When I say that, people always say, who are you talking about? I'm talking about a multiple. There are multiple fanboy podcasts, okay? They just say whatever people want to hear. Sometimes, I don't know, I think some of them are actually starting to become fanboys. I really believe this. I mean, not only are we using stats that we see in practice and training camp when no one's getting hit, we're using these stats as a basis for why someone should start or not start. I'm not even just talking about quarterback. But we're 10 days into the NFL career of Tyler Shough, and already we're writing him off. Now, he may not be the starting quarterback. He may not deserve to be the starting quarterback when all is said and done. But it's August the 1st. To write off, there's one particular comment, and there are a bunch of comments like this. I don't know who this guy is. I'm actually not going to give him any free pub, because this tweet got a ton of views and retweets, and so I'm not giving him any free pub. But here's just one, okay? And there were a bunch that I saw actually on Facebook. That were very similar to this. There were at least 5 or 6 tweets / comments / whatever that I saw that said almost this exact same thing. And I'm going to quote this. Again, I'm not going to give this person any publicity because I don't want them to get free clicks off of my show. Quote, I cannot believe there were actually people on earth who thought Tyler Shough was legitimately better than Shedeur Sanders. It's August the 1st. They're 10 days away from their first preseason game. They're 10 days away from their first We're not talking about 10 days away from the regular season opener, and we've decided Shough was the starter. No, we're 10 days away from the first preseason game. And that's the kind of crap that I have to read. And I want to comment so badly, but I know it's not worth it. I'm going to get to your comments in just a minute, and that's how we're going to start the show. But before we start with Shough and get into it and jump into it, I did want to talk real quickly. First of all, did anybody watch the Hall of Fame game? Yeah, there's our mention of the Hall of Fame game, and that preseason actually started last night. I legitimately forgot it was on. I went to dinner with my wife and a couple friends of ours, and we just talked. We had a great time. We sat at this restaurant. They basically kicked us out of the restaurant because they were closing. They had these benches outside, and we ended up sitting at these benches for like an hour and a half just talking. We got home. It was about, 10:30, 11:15, something like that. And I'm sitting there, and I'm scrolling through my phone. I'm like, oh, yeah, there was a preseason game on. I completely forgot, legitimately. So I didn't watch a single second of it. Did you? We'll get to it in the comments. And then lastly, before we get back to all football, the MLB trade deadline yesterday, it wasn't nearly as active as I thought it would be. The big news is, this is my headline from the MLB trade line. The big news is it was a fantastic day for the Saints. No, not the New Orleans Saints. The St. Paul Saints. Apparently the Twins decided they're going to play the rest of the year with Byron Buxton and their AAA team. They traded everyone else away. Everyone got a piece. The Astros got Correa. The Cubs got Willie, whatever the hell his name is. They traded 10 of the 23 players on their roster were traded away. That is crazy. That is insane. I've never seen that. You want to talk about fire sale? They just blew them up. The St. Paul Saints are now going to play for the Minnesota Twins the rest of the year. It's insane. The Cubs did almost nothing, by the way. The Padres decided to shoot for the moon. They got fireballer Mason Miller, who throws at about 282 miles an hour. Why the A's were willing to trade him, I don't give a darn. I'm not going to curse already this early in the show. I don't care who you're giving up. This 18-year-old prospect is 18 years old. Whatever. The A's don't trade Mason Miller, but whatever, they did. J.P. Sears, Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano. They got catcher Freddie Furman, Nestor Cortez, Will Wagner. I mean, the Padres are shooting for the moon, and I think they forgot they're in the same division with the Dodgers, and they're not going to beat the Dodgers. But enjoy that. Try it. Anyway, there's my spiel on the – I mean, Gabe says because the Padres gave him a haul. We're going to come back to this. I'm sure Gabe will – we may talk a little bit more about baseball later on. I'm sure it will come up as we go along. I'm sure some of our Dattitude family might want to bring it up. I know one in particular that's a Padres fan that's probably in there somewhere. We'll see if he's talking. All right, let's go to the comment stream this morning. Zach will be with us shortly. I got to tell you about my friends at Evangeline in just a minute. UBN's the first commenter, and yes, RIP to the NOLA Gold rugby team. They are, if you know in politics when they said they have suspended their campaign, which I hate that, by the way. We've suspended our campaign. It means you quit. The NOLA Gold rugby team has suspended operations. Are you going to resume operations? They say maybe. Now, I'm not a rugby fan, but one of the things that does bother me a little bit, we talk about the 50 years of the Superdome. Well, they were about to, maybe they still will, redo Zephyr Field, or Baby Cakes Field, or whatever the hell, the Shriner and Airline, whatever it is. Are they still going to do that? Because the NOLA Gold rugby team, I think, was going to be the main occupant. And they were getting great numbers, attendance-wise. I don't understand. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll redo it. I don't know. So anyway, yes, that was some news that we kind of got overlooked yesterday. We have not overlooked it here on the Dat Podcast. Thanks, UBN. We say hello. Well, goodbye to the NOLA Gold. A-Town, good morning. Daryl Romero. I had the best show around, he says. He enjoys listening. It's awesome. Great place to play ball. The Superdome, he means. He played his first high school game there in 1975. Now, I know that the Superdome Classic, the state championships, I think they started in the Dome. Was it 81? Was when the Prep Classic started? I think it was 81. Now, I know that they played prep games there. There were big games there in the late 70s. I didn't know they played them there as early as 75. I don't remember that. David says his first time in the Dome was to watch a New Orleans Breakers game. Okay, well, that was 1984. I know that because the New Orleans Breakers were only here in New Orleans for 1 year, and it was 1984. Spring of my junior year in high school. Charles Mangus, good morning. Sorry you were late. Okay, it's all right. 30 days until LSU kicks off against Clemson. We probably won't talk a whole lot about LSU today, but we will going forward. Owen Attilio, good morning. Dattitude family, hello. UBN says the first time oh, come on, man. Not already. I'm having trouble clicking on some of these comments. There we go. First time he walked in the Dome was to watch the GOAT number 16. He means Joe Montana. Probably 1989. Charles Manga says the first time that he visited the Dome was in 1976 to see the Saints play the Rams. At least y'all remember. I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm old or what. I can't remember. I can't definitive. I could tell you some early things that I saw in the Dome. LSU played UCLA in a college basketball game there. There were probably 70,000 people there. I'd have to go look it up in the archives. I don't know what date that was. I think it was in 1981. That's the first thing I absolutely remember, but I know there were other things. A-Town says that would be must-see TV when Gabe wears a Saint jersey. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. If for no other reason than to see Gabe wear a Saints jersey, there you go. There you can root for the Saints to win 10 games. They don't have to go to the playoffs. You just have to win 10 games And Gabe Henderson will be awareness. He'll buy it himself, and then he'll give it away. Charles says they only played 12. No, they played 14. Saints played 14 regular season games. 14 regular season games and 6 preseason games. Sean wants to know, do I think Saints fans are overreacting to Shough struggles? I mean, this must have been typed in before I said what I just said. Over 10-second clip videos. He's a rookie. Rome wasn't built in a day. Too many are looking for unrealistic instant success. We're going to get to it with Zach in a little bit. That's definitely going to be part of what we talk about this morning. I mean, how anyone, and I mean anyone. I mean, you could talk about, Jeff Duncan says, well, in fact, let me quote what Jeff Duncan says. He says, I've seen a lot of practices. This is a quote. I've seen a lot of practices in my 26 years covering the Saints, and today was one of the best I can remember from a strictly competitive standpoint. But then he says at the same time, quote, Tyler Shough might have overseen/directed the worst 2-minute drive in the history of the NFL during situational work late in practice. Now, you can say that. That's a fair assessment. That's fine. But you can't say that what a mistake it was to draft Tyler. And maybe it was a mistake. It might end up being a mistake. But to say Shedeur Sanders is definitively better than Tyler Shough on August the 1st, 10 days into training camp, is insanely absurd, as some people are doing already. Zach's in the green room, so we're going to get to him in just a minute. Mark Satanovich, the Rat is the clear-cut quarterback one. There you go. There's your overreaction hype of the day. Thank you, Mark Satanovich. You win. Overreaction comment of the day. But the difference is, I know Mark is a member of the Dat family. I know he's a huge Rat fan. So I'll give him a little bit benefit of the doubt. Again, we're going to get into this. I'm going to save some of these comments for when Zach comes on, because some of these are about the Dome and their first visits to the Dome. Paul Laporte says, why is the local media trying to make me drink the Kool-Aid? Are you talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry or the Kool-Aid about Spencer Rattler? I don't know which one. And eat the cheese on the Saints, because it's their job. If you walk out on the Saints, then you might just stop watching and talk. You might stop watching. You might stop reading. You might stop whatever. Of course, some people are going to oversell. Yeah, I know. I almost said a really bad word. I'm trying not to say too many bad words. Here's one that will make Zach happy. Marina's got a slugger from the Angels. Gabe's shaking his head. Zach's on a ho-hum. He's just pumping his arms. All right, there we go. All right. Anyway, we got to get to what's going on here as I read this. All right. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Such a great start to the show. Before we get to the rest of this great show, that's right. They paid for this. They love us. Let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. They're the best part of this show. They're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, maybe more importantly, they can help figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, someone you love, someone you like, I don't know, they need some help. Someone you don't like at all, but you know they need help, and maybe you're the only help that they can get. Tell them to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. From there, you would be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? Well, thank you for asking. But you're going to have to wait, because we'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, it's time to talk about, we're going to jump right into it, the 50th anniversary of what used to be known, what was formerly known as the Louisiana Superdome. And it's been known as a few things since then. It's currently known as the Caesars Superdome. Zach Ewing, what is going on this morning?
Not much, man. Just kind of grinding through camp like everybody else.
Are you writing players off and or anointing other players as starters on August the 1st?
No, I think that what's happened so far is not meaningless.
I can agree with that.
But it's not I mean, there's a reason training camp is like 5 weeks long, right? Because we're trying to get a full picture, as full of a picture of these guys as we can. Like, I know I talked about this the last time I was on, and it still holds true. Like, it's the old training camp adage, right? Like, does the front seven look good because the front seven is good,
right?
Or is it because the Saints' offensive line is bad? And they've had 3 padded practices. Okay, I really put very little stock in practices outside of pads, just because there's no pass rush, there's no physicality. Like, how are you really supposed to evaluate anything other than maybe technique? And
we're talking about practice.
These guys are professional players. They've all got pretty good technique. So we've had 3 padded practices. Like, you talk about quarterbacks, is Spencer Rattler ahead right now? Yes, I'd say he's definitively ahead in the race. I expect he will start the first preseason game. If the Saints had a competitive game to play this weekend, he would undoubtedly be.
What about Jake Haener? He looked good.
Jake Haener looks fine. I mean, honestly, if you were basing it just on camp, Jake Haener would be your backup quarterback, and Shough would be third.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not happening.
But we are about 25% of the way through training camp right now. I think they get 30 practices. They're through 8 of them. So there's a long way to go. And Jeff, I know you were talking about Jeff's tweets and how, I don't know, Twitter is the place for hyperbole. He wrote a column that just posted on NOLA.com/Saints a couple of hours ago. And it's his annual, what I've liked, loved, and loathed about Saints camp thus far. And, he mentions Marcus Colston in 2006 came to camp, and for the first week and a half, 2 weeks, looked totally lost. Like, what is this guy doing out here? They're going to cut him the first round of cuts. And then about 2 weeks into camp, the light bulb flashed, and all of a sudden he was one of the best players on the team, and obviously turned out to be that way. So the light bulb could turn on for Tyler Shough. It could turn on for Kendry Miller. It could turn, any of these guys we're writing off. Like, the guys that I'm tending to write off are the Kendry Millers and Isaiah Foskey's and guys who have been here a couple of years and
already had their chance,
anything, and they're still not showing anything. And I'm going, all right, your clock's ticking. But outside of that, I'm not ready to write anybody off.
Yeah, well, we're going to come back to this, because this is how we're going to finish our segment, because I want to talk more about Tyler Shough here. And I've got the X machine up, but I read one of the comments about people there are actually people out there, not even Spencer Rattler. If you think Spencer Rattler is going to win the job, fine. You probably thought that before camp even started. That's fine. But there are people out there saying, see, I told you Shedeur Sanders was better. I mean, it's so incredibly absurd. I don't know why I get upset about things like this, but stupid things like this really bother me. Anyway, we're going to come back to that, and we're going to talk more about the Saints. But I do want to talk about you. I did not know we were doing this until you texted me about it, and it ends up being a great show segment and talking about the Dome. And we have a special section coming about the Dome's 50th birthday, which is this week. I don't know the exact date that it opened, but I know the first event in there was the Saints preseason game against the Oilers, and I think it was August the 6th, 1975, which is coming up this current week. That would be on Wednesday, I believe, August the 6th. We'll have a show on August the 6th. But when does the section come out, Zach?
Section comes out Sunday morning. It's all done. It's I think it's already been printed, or else it's being printed today. And I think it's a cool thing. The problem with doing anniversary sections from a media perspective is that, well, okay, we could do a 40th and a 50th and a 60th, and like, how much different are they going to be? But this is obviously a nice round number. The Dome's not going to make it to 100 years, I wouldn't think, but 50 years is a hell of an accomplishment.
Neither are we. Well, yeah. I'm not. You might, but
I might make it to the Dome's 100th. What would I be? 91?
Okay, well, I would be maybe 107.
I'm not going to bet on it, but I can hope. I don't know. Like, I think people forget, especially people my age or younger, how much of a revelation the Superdome was when it first came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, people call the Astrodome the eighth wonder of the world.
Right.
The Superdome, like, put the Astrodome to shame, man. Like,
no doubt.
Jeff has a column in this section where he kind of talks about, like, John McKeithen, the governor at the time, said it was the greatest stadium ever built. That's a politician kind of being grandiose. I think he's got an argument. The thing has lasted for 50 years. It just hosted a Super Bowl. What other 50-year-old stadium has ever hosted? The Rose Bowl, I suppose. I mean, like, had probably hosted a Super Bowl when it was 50 years old. But the fact that it has withstood the test of time and all these renovations, it was a complete engineering marvel at the time. The Astrodome would fit inside the Superdome. Okay, it would fit comfortably.
The Astrodome, and look, sorry, I mean, and Gabe, I know you probably spent some time. Gabe probably spent. We'll talk about that later. But I probably have seen 30 events in the Astrodome in my lifetime, and almost all of them baseball games. Not all of them, but most of them baseball games. And the Astrodome never held a candle to the Superdome. It didn't, and not just because it's gone now, but I mean, it was like this. You say it fits inside the Superdome, even though that is true. It seemed like this cavernous thing where you were just far away from everything. I don't know. It was weird. I was never a fan. Now I love their baseball stadium now, and I haven't been to their football stadium, which looks fantastic. But I mean, I just think I'm biased, but I think the Superdome is the greatest sports venue that has ever been built. Now, I'm not going to compare it to things in Europe and soccer stadiums and all that because I haven't been there. But of all the places that I've been to, and I'm including Wrigley Field, I'm obviously a big Cubs fan, and I think Wrigley Field is a mecca, and Fenway Park is beautiful. But as far as places I've been, the Dome, it's hard to beat the Dome.
Yeah, the Dome is in this sweet spot of like being historic, like a Wrigley Field or a Fenway Park, but still being relevant, where hosted a Super Bowl. It's going to have the CFP championship game in a couple of years. I'm sure it'll get another Final Four. Like, it's still very relevant in today's sporting world. And so that's kind of unique. Like, it does have its limitations. I think I saw a comment asking about putting a roof on it out.
Yeah. Sean says, do you think they will ever think about giving the Dome a retractable roof? And I think the answer is no, for multiple reasons. If anything else, Zach, they would have to close the place for a whole season. They have to go somewhere else for another season.
Well, and first of all, why? Like, how many weeks out of the year is the Superdome actually? Is the weather in New Orleans nice enough to where you'd want the roof open?
3.
Like a lot of these modern stadiums, Atlanta, Arizona, Dallas. Like, one advantage they have is not only can they open the roof, but they can open a whole side of the place and change the turf so they can go between artificial turf and natural grass. They can grow the grass outside and then wheel it back in. And so they can host, like the Superdome will never host a World Cup event. Right. Because soccer wants natural grass. Right. You can't put natural grass in the Superdome. So it does have its limitations, but that's almost part of the charm of it to me. I mean, I don't know. Like, you've been to the Dome dozens, if not hundreds of times. I'm sure most of your listeners have been dozens of times. I've been dozens of times now, but I still remember, I moved
hundreds of times.
Like, the first time you're in that building, I was there for a church youth event in 2001 was my first. It takes your breath away. I mean, it really does. And I still think it does, where you walk into that place and there's something majestic about it. Like,
there is.
We're biased, but I think it deserves to be celebrated. Again, we could be having the same conversation when it turns 60. Like, anniversaries are a little bit arbitrary, but I think it's a good time to look back and kind of remember it for what it is and celebrate it for what it still is.
Well, you sent me a copy of it, so I did get a chance to preview and look through the section again, which comes out Sunday in the Times-Picayune and The Advocate as part of your Sunday paper. I encourage everyone to go out there. If you don't subscribe to our paper, you should, first off. But if you don't, you can go out to newsstands and buy it. It will be part of every paper that is out there. Again, the Times-Picayune and The Advocate on Sunday. But I went through it, and I think it's fantastically done. It is very well done. Obviously, a lot of thought into it. Now, I pulled some pictures from the special section, and just to give kind of an idea, obviously, we could show literally hundreds of pictures if we wanted to about events that have been in the Dome. But these were just some that I pulled. I just thought was some kind of cool pictures. And, oddly enough, I think my favorite one is because I can't remember exactly the first time that I went in the Dome. I can remember early events that I went to, but I don't remember which one was the first. But one of my first memories, period, just in life, was the Dome being built. And now I lived on the West Bank, so we would drive across the river to go visit my grandmother and my aunt and whatever. And this picture on the left of the dome being built, that is one of my first memories of the dome being built. Now, obviously, A, you weren't alive, Zach Ewing, but B, you weren't anywhere near New Orleans yet. But I remember this as it was, and I wanted to see every time we went to my grandmother's, how much progress have they made. It took 4 years to build the Superdome, and that picture on the left, that's probably a year into it, or maybe a little bit more than that. So probably 1972, 1973, I'm guessing that picture. But just what went into building that place.
Yeah, total engineering marvel, right? I actually, one of the things we have in the section I thought we could have some fun with is like, I have a by the numbers that I put together.
Yeah.
Some of them are historical things. Some of them are physical things. If I threw out like, what is the diameter of the dome or the square footage of the roof? Anybody want to hazard a guess in the comments?
I read this and I have no idea, but we'll give them a chance to comment.
Guess the diameter of the dome in feet. Okay. And the other one,
I got a D in geometry. So
yeah, so diameter for you West Bankers.
I'm like,
okay?
Exactly.
That's the distance from one end to the other. That's just from one end to the other. It's a circle, right? So it doesn't matter where you are from one end to the other. How far is it?
Geometry lessons here on Dattitude on this Friday morning.
And then I got a couple other questions when we get somebody. 1 million square feet. It's not that big. It's not that big.
But he does remember it being built.
The square footage of the roof, which would be more than the square footage of the floor because the roof is curved, obviously, is 400,000.
Nick, I'm assuming he meant 690,000.
That is okay. We're going to give that the winner. The diameter is 680 feet. Super close.
Damn.
So that's
he cheat?
It does. Yeah, you can't cheat on these, but that doesn't win Price is Right rules because you went over. But you're close enough. We're going to give it to you. Okay. How many high school state championship games have been held in the Superdome?
Oh wow! How many high school state championship? Hold on. Give me a second here. I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to say 310.
That's little high.
All right. 247.
That's a lot closer. 229.
Okay.
Is held the
I don't know how many of them I've been to. The UBN's making. I don't know that one.
Games. Yeah. Every year since '81, except for 2005, Katrina, and 2020 with COVID.
Yeah.
Didn't hold.
But not everyone though. Not every game, because actually the select championships were played at different places for a very brief period of time before they went back there.
The event known as the Prep Classic has been there every year.
Correct, since 1981, and I know that I've called more than 40 state championship games in the Dome. I broadcasted more than 40. I don't know how many I've been to. Probably 80-ish. A lot.
All right. Highest attendance ever for an event at the Dome?
I would imagine it's one of the college basketball championship games. Am I right?
No, actually, the capacity for college basketball is a little bit smaller because they
even back in the 80s.
Yeah, they have to cut sections off because you can't see the court.
Was it No Mas or was it Ali and Frazier?
So Nick just guessed Taylor Swift. He's on the right track. Taylor Swift has the record.
Oh, Rolling Stones then. It's got to be Rolling Stones.
Taylor Swift has the record for a weekend. That was 191,000. But yeah, it was the Rolling Stones concert in 1981, 87,500.
Yeah, and I was at the Rolling Stones concert that came back, and I think it was 89 or something like that. I went to, and I'm not a big Rolling Stones fan, but it was one of the greatest concerts I've ever been to. It was crazy how good it was. I did not put that in the pictures, by the way. I should have.
We won't do any more quizzes, but just a couple other numbers that I thought were interesting. 503 NFL games. So it's funny, the Saints' next preseason game will be 504, the New Orleans area code. That includes 384 Saints regular season games, 97 Saints preseason games, 14 Saints playoff games, and 8 Super Bowls. That's 503.
Well, I want to go back to the picture. It's crazy. So anyway, all this stuff is going to come out in the special section again Sunday in the Times-Picayune and The Advocate. But some of these other pictures, again, I couldn't fit all the pictures in here, and I just picked some of them out. Some of maybe the key moments, and obviously local moments, and then national moments. And you look at Ali Frazier up there at the top. It's kind of small. Drew Brees setting an NFL record. Obviously, the dome coming back and the block punt. Pigs have flown. Jim Henderson is our guest next Friday for show number 400. I can't wait to talk about that, and I'm sure we'll talk about pigs have flown. Garrett Hartley being mobbed by his teammates. Joe Burrow. And you got Michael Jordan. I was there. One of my earliest memories in the dome. I was a young teenager at the time. Was able to go. I was way up in the terrace for that. 1982, I believe. Tom Landry, the first Super Bowl ever played in New Orleans. I believe Super Bowl 12 against the Denver Broncos. And then Eddie Robinson, the final game he coached in his legendary career was in the Bayou Classic. In the dome, and I can't remember what year that was. I don't know if you have it off the top of your head, Zach, but anyway,
late 90s. Yeah,
late 90s, the late great Eddie Robinson. But anyway, so this dome, obviously, you could fill up. We could show slides for an hour of all the things that have been done in the dome, but just incredible memories. What's your favorite memory in the dome?
Oh man, it's hard for me to say anything but the Super Bowl this year, just because that's the only one I've been to. So I've got to say that. But I remember, I mean, like this is a little bit of a random memory, but the Halloween game in 2021, Jameis Winston tore up his knee in that game, but the Saints beat the Bucs anyway. And they got a pick six at the end. I'm blanking on who had the pick six for them actually at the end of that game, but it's a pick six of Tom Brady to win the game. And that was probably my one true like Superdome crowd pop where it was just like, oh my God, that's what this building can be. And that I'm not sure the Saints have gotten to that point since. Like just you still had some Breeze Payton momentum. I think the Saints improved to 6-2 that day or something like that, 5-2 maybe. And like it was looked like a playoff team and people were excited and beat Tom Brady and the Bucs, and that place just exploded. And so I'll always remember that for, man, that's what this place is when it's really rocking.
Yeah, I have several. Obviously, the Super Bowl is up there. I wouldn't say it's my number one, although it's the only Super Bowl that I ever went to with you, sitting next to you this past year, or this earlier this year. And then obviously the Saints coming back to the dome and the block punt and the Falcons.
The dome
game.
coming that's gotta be.
It's my number one. However, I do have some other special moments in the dome. Obviously, I've told this to people before. I'm a member of the crew of Endymion, and I've been to probably, 12 extravaganzas in the dome, I guess. My first one way back in 1986 or 87. But people don't know this if you're not old enough to remember this, but they actually used to have other kind of events in the dome. And my junior prom was actually in the Louisiana Superdome back in 1984, my junior prom. So that's one of my favorite memories as well. So I have so many memories of being in the dome. You talk about dozens or hundreds. There's no question it's multiple hundreds of times that I've been in that place. I mean, I could sit there and try to figure them out one day, but there's no question. I mean, I've been to certainly well over 100 Saints games in my life. So,
by the way, the pick six was PJ Williams that day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My junior prom date. No, I'm not gonna.
It wasn't PJ Williams.
Just in case she's watching. Don't want to. Should say I actually went out with him. Yes, that's true. David Hash says the dome has become such a part of the city. It even went through Katrina with everyone, and for better or worse, it's still here. It means a lot. Tony says the return of Saints versus Falcons after Katrina. And look, I mean, anyone who was at that dome that day, I don't know anyone who could say that their biggest moment was anything other than that. My short story on that day was my wife and I. We weren't married. We'd only been dating for a few months at the time. Well, we'd been dating for about 8 or 9 months at the time. And we got into this huge argument right before the game. And we don't hardly ever fight. I mean, we probably had like maybe 5 fights. And since we've been 5 big arguments since we've been together for almost 20 years now. But we got in a huge argument right before the game. And it kind of, they blocked the punt, and I went to go hug her, and she just like had her arms folded. And I'm like, I can't believe you're not enjoying this moment. This is probably the greatest moment, except for, later the Super Bowl. That's probably, at that point in time, it was probably the greatest moment in Saints history, even better than Hakeem dropped the ball and the Saints won their first playoff game. And she's got her arms folded like,
way to screw it up, Derry. I blame you.
Yeah, I know. Wow. Everybody blames me. Oh, yeah, actually, Brian brings up a good point. Saw non-football games, saw several Jazz. The Jazz played there back in the 70s. And every Winn-Dixie Challenge baseball game, the Yankees used to play. It wasn't just 1 year. The Yankees used to play exhibition games in the Dome for many years. I got to yell at Yogi Berra as a kid, like go down and talk to him. What kid? I kept asking him for his autograph. He finally yells at me, what kid? And he grabbed my glove, signed it, and threw it, but just get out of here. The New Orleans Pelicans played one season in 1977, I believe, minor league baseball in the Superdome. So yeah, there's been also all kinds of stuff. I forgot about the Super Fair in the Superdome. A-Town, of course, Essence Fest, just all the different things and we talked about the Endymion Extravaganza, all the different things that have been in the Dome. They're all going to be mentioned in this special section.
Yeah, we've got a timeline, and Jeff did his top 10 sporting events in the Dome, and we have a list of concerts that have been in the Dome. Our features department got in on it. It's and I think like people don't realize. I don't know how many other stadiums are like this, or how many other cities are like this, where the Dome is pretty easily the most recognizable feature of the New Orleans skyline. Like I don't think there's anything else that would even be a close second.
No, for sure.
And what other city can say that? Like Green Bay, okay, but Green Bay is so small,
right?
I don't think there's any other city that can even come to.
Gabe says London, the Wembley Arch.
But I disagree with that, because Wembley's so far away from like central London that when you see the London skyline, you've got Big Ben and the London Eye and the Tower of London and Tower Bridge and stuff. Like, you don't think Wembley first. You think the Dome first when you think of the New Orleans skyline. I that's totally unique to me, and I think it kind of shows the relationship that the city has with the stadium, and that's been building, and will still, like, I mean, the Saints and the state are working on a new lease.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of contention in that, but from what I hear, it's going to get done. It'll
be fine.
I mean, like the Saints, the Dome, I think, if you got to put the over under on how long the place stays open, like 75 years, like I think another 25 years is totally reasonable. I don't think they're going anywhere from there. At some point, it will start to get to the point where they're going to have to think about replacing it, or just, whether it's in the same spot, tear it down.
Yeah, I won't care by then. I'll be.
I think
I'll be in my 80s.
74 and a half years is a pretty good over under for that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. A couple other comments here before we move on and start talking about the Saints. Let's see, where was it? Rob says he had a homecoming dance there in Halloween night 1993. A-Town wants to know who remembers the Dome tours. Do they still do them? I think they do. I don't know. That's a good question though. I don't know the answer to that. The old Hap Glaudy Classic, which is now the prep class. The Hap Glaudy Classic. You're right, Rob. That was actually they would have games like in week 2 or week 3 of the prep season. They stopped doing that not too long ago. I don't know why they stopped doing that. David Bordelon says a day of rock and roll in 1979 with Blue Oyster Cult, Hart, Van Halen, Nazareth, Boston. I don't remember that. And then Charles Mangus says, don't rebuild it over a graveyard. I don't know. And then lastly, Brian Cavett says he had to stop going to games after the 2007 season. Enjoyed great Saints moments in the comfort of home. He did go to random games here and there, but none since this major overhaul. I think what they've done to the place is fantastic. And so, you and I, again, we talked about going to the Super Bowl and how important that is for the city. Now the Dome has been, I think the Dome has been, New Orleans is tied with Miami, I believe, for most times hosting, but I believe the Superdome has hosted the Super Bowl more than any other venue.
That's correct. And it's also the 5th oldest stadium in the NFL, but it will soon be 4th, because one of the top 4 right now is Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. They're opening their new place next year. So it will become fourth. And then Kansas City, Arrowhead's one of the other three, and they're talking about a new stadium too. And so Chicago, Soldier Field's another one. So pretty soon it'll be Lambeau Field, and then the Dome will be number 2.
It's crazy to even think that's the case. All right. So again, Zach, just tell them where they can get the special section. 50 years, an icon turns 50 as the headline. In fact, I'll put this up so they can see it a little bit bigger, but this is what the front of the special section looks like. Again, tell them about it and where they can get it.
It's in your Advocate and Times-Picayune Sunday morning. So anywhere you can buy that. And if you're not subscribed, I know it's a little archaic to subscribe to a print edition, but you subscribe to our print edition, you also get the e-edition, or you can simply choose the e-edition where you get, it's like an actual PDF image of every page. You can log
read it on your iPad, phone.
Yeah. That way you don't have to mess with the actual paper product if you don't want to, and you get access to our website. All the stories will be up on the website too. But this is one to kind of be enjoyed, I think, the paper copy.
I agree. And it's definitely one that I will make sure I pull that special section out and hold on to it, because my wife likes to make fun of me for being a pack rat, but there are certain sections that I want to hold on to, and that'll be one of them for sure. All right, let's move on and talk about Saints camp. And we kind of touched on it when we first came on, but some people are already writing off Tyler Shough, and listen, I mean, it's some of the ridiculousness that is going on. And I called up the X machine to see some of these ridiculous. Here's another one. Again, I don't want to give any of these people credit, because so you go read. There's absolutely no quote. There's no absolutely football reason that Tyler Shough should have been picked over Shedeur Sanders. Trey Lance is younger and better than Tyler Shough, by the way. All these other things.
Can't even crack the top 3 rotation in Cleveland. Why do people still think he's better than Tyler? Like,
I don't know.
I don't think he's going to be in the NFL in 3 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it might be less than that.
He seems really kind.
But here's my point, and who we're talking about. We're trying to say, I mean, these people are trying to say Tyler Shough sucks, and it's August 1st. I mean, what are we doing here? Where have we gone to where we're figure out? And look, he may. I'm not a fan of. I've said this 1,000 times. I was not a fan of this draft pick. I never was. I didn't like Tyler Shough when they drafted him. I don't know that he's going to be the future of this team, but he might be. But the point is, how can we say yes or no to anything on August the 1st?
I am kind of fascinated, and this goes back to last year, by this. Like, why did Spencer Rattler get anointed the golden boy?
I have no idea.
I don't understand.
Because he's different. He's different.
I take this as a good sign. Okay, first of all, if Spencer Rattler is beating out Tyler Shough, that means Spencer Rattler has taken steps. That's a good thing. The worst case scenario, that means you have a quality backup. Best case scenario, Spencer Rattler takes the job by the horns, and maybe everybody's right, and he is a viable NFL starter. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Guys do take a year or two leap. Kellen Moore is a good quarterbacks coach. He's proven that. Like, maybe Spencer Rattler is the guy. I'm not saying he's not. Don't take that to mean he's not. But nobody did that with Jake Haener. Nobody's doing that with Tyler Shough. Certainly nobody did it with Derek Carr. Nobody did it with Jameis. Nobody did it with Andy Dalton. Nobody's done it with, but for some reason, Spencer Rattler is like the golden boy. Everybody wants to see him win it. I don't know.
I think there's multiple reasons about Spencer Rattler. And I think, part of it obviously is the Netflix special, and he got all this pub before he even went to college. So it's a name that people have known for a long time. And so I think people get excited about what he could, they see what he could be, I guess. And what the whole thought process of what Spencer, but he hasn't showed. I get it that he hasn't played. For the people who love Spencer Rattler and all this stuff, I get why they think he could be, but what has he shown anyone? And I'm not trying to, dog on him because he played with a bunch of backups and reserves, and I get that, but it was just what I saw that I don't think changes. When a guy plays like a deer in the headlight look, which is what he did for the second half of many of the games he played in, I don't know that can change later on. I don't know how a quarterback gets off of his first read. That being said, I don't know. This Saints team, Zach, I think they're going to go into the season no matter who starts as quarterback. They're going to be the 32nd ranked quarterback room in the NFL. And I don't think 31 is all that close, but we shouldn't be writing off anyone or anointing anyone on August the 1st.
Yeah, I agree. It's too early. The preseason games are going to be huge this year. I see you have the betting line on there. The reason the Saints are favored, and they're going to be favored in their second preseason game too, teams with quarterback competitions are
right.
You bet on those teams in the preseason because they're going to give not just their top quarterbacks a chance to play, but they're going to let them play with the number one offense for a little while. The Chargers don't need to do that, especially because they played last night. Like, they're going to be playing backups upon backups. Like, I'm laying the points with the Saints there because they're going to give Shough and Rattler both a lot of time in that game.
Yeah, and
you see that in the second preseason game too.
Real quick, for people who are new to betting or don't understand betting or whatever, and they're wondering what the 34.5 means. That's the over-under point total. It just goes to show what odds makers think about these games. They usually go under. Last night didn't. Actually, last night went over. But 34.5 is the over-under. That is the amount of total points odds makers put on will be scored in that game. And again, as Zach said, the Saints are favored by 2.5 points because their quarterbacks will be, and I got to be honest, I mean, we'll probably see Jake Haener for a little bit, but it'll be plenty of Shough and Rattler. I'm with you, what you said before. Rattler probably would start this first game is my guess, but it doesn't matter. He and Shough are both going to get plenty of time, and that leads to the first team. I think you'll see this offensive line probably play a good bit more than the Chargers starting offensive line, if their starting offensive line even plays at all.
Yeah, I think you're going to get like 3 full drives with, I think Rattler will start and he will play with the ones probably against mostly Chargers 2s. And then you're going to get Tyler Shough 3 full drives, probably with the 2s against the Chargers 3s. The Saints could have like 24, 28 points by themselves from those drives. Just because you're playing 1s versus 2s.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, like, I know people say, oh, if you bet on the preseason, you got to call the hotline. Like, this is,
that's what Gabe says.
But this is where the edge is. The regular season, the sports books are so keyed in to everything that you're not going to find an edge. The preseason, you might be able to, like, rotations are weird, substitutions are weird. Like, that's why people bet on the preseason, because sometimes you can find those edges.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, another thing about this and the overreaction, and to show that people are obviously on one side, okay, and they can't see. I mean, the people who want Spencer Rattler to start, they can't see anything but the negative for Shough, and they can't see anything but the positive for Rattler. No one gave a damn that Rattler threw an interception in camp a couple days ago. People were getting on Shough for being indecisive and rolling out and holding the ball too long or whatever, giving him crap for that. And then the next day, they were giving him crap because he was taking chances and threw 2 interceptions. So this dude can't win for losing already.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even Dunk said in his column this morning, like, he referenced his tweet where he says it's the worst 2-minute drive he's ever seen. There was, like, Will Clapp gave him 2 bad snaps.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't all him. He was playing with a makeshift offensive line. Again, I think people like, oh, you're Shough apologists. We get comments on the Saints Insider all the time. You guys are just shilling for Shough and you don't care about Rattler. It's not that. If again, Rattler is ahead right now. If the season started this Sunday, Spencer Rattler is clearly your starter. Not saying any of that's not true, but it's also been 8 practices. It's only been 3 padded practices. You've got to give it time. He's a rookie. Again, at this time last year, Haener was ahead of Rattler.
Right.
It makes a big difference if you're in year 2. Give it time. If Rattler's still ahead in 3 weeks, I think you got to start him. I think if you're Kellen Moore, you will lose the respect of your players if you do not start the better guy. No. He's going to start the better guy, but he's going to start whoever's the better guy in 3 weeks, not now.
I think he's only going to start the better guy if, let's put it this way. I think Rattler has 2 chances to start, and I'm sticking with this. I'm not going to change my opinion after 10 days of camp, okay? But I think that one of 2 things. Either Rattler clearly wins the job and he has no choice, which is possible. I doubt it, but it's possible. He would have to clearly win the job. Or, and we've talked about this before, and I'm going to put the early lines from the first 4 games and to show how brutal it's. The Saints aren't just underdogs in these first 4 games. They're overwhelmingly underdogs. I guess maybe 5.5 points in that opener it's a little bit much to call it overwhelming, but they're touchdown dogs or more in the other 3 games. And so if you're Kellen Moore, okay, and you're being realistic to yourself, and you're not going to say this out loud. You're never going to say, I think we're going to start 0-4. But if you're Kellen Moore and you say there's a realistic chance we're going to start 0-4, you may start Spencer Rattler because, we don't want to throw Tyler Shough to the wolves as a rookie and let him stink it up. And if Spencer Rattler goes out and plays well in those first 4 games and somehow either goes and maybe even goes 2-2 some kind of way, I doubt it seriously, or even 1-3 and plays well, then maybe he wins the job and you figure it out later on. But I think that's another possibility of why Rattler starts. I don't think Rattler's going to start. I still think it's going to be Shough. But those are 2 possibilities in my mind, again, as you take a look at the lines for those first 4 games.
I think to start the season, you start the better guy. Again, your team loses respect for you if you do not start the better guy. I don't care. Tough schedule, want somebody else to take the lumps. None of that. You start the better guy. Now, week 9, if you're 2-7, then maybe you start to say, okay, is it time to have another look just to see what we have? And maybe even though Shough hasn't been better, that's possible. But to start the season, like, these guys are here to compete. Demario Davis is not on this roster to see
100%.
Alvin Kamara is not on this roster
Correct.
to see what they've got at quarterback. They want to win. They're going to give it every effort to win. Now, if you're 2-7 halfway through the season, then everyone sees the writing on the wall. You readjust. But you're not going to start one guy over the other because of the schedule or because of the draft pick, or you are going to start the better guy when the season starts. So everybody pounding the table for Rattler, yeah, right now he is. He's in the lead. And if he's still in the lead in a month, he's going to start against Arizona on September 7th.
I agree with part of what you're saying. Here's why I think Spencer Rattler has to overwhelmingly win the job. If you're just talking about if it's close, Shough's going to win it. I'd be shocked if Shough doesn't win it if it's close. And the reason being is, Zach, and we've talked about this before. I think the Saints know that they're in a position where they need to find their next quarterback. Let's be realistic. I'm not trying to be mean. I think anyone who thinks that Spencer Rattler is the long-term answer at quarterback for this team is just silly. I don't think there's any chance that if I'm proven wrong, great, I'm proven wrong. That being said, you draft Tyler Shough with the 40th pick of the draft, and I hear what you're saying, but you've got to know if you're going to be in this situation again next year. And I think the only way to do that is to put the guy who potentially, again, I don't think Tyler Shough's going to be the answer to the quarterback. I hope I'm wrong with either one of these guys or both of them or whatever, and they're great. But I think you need to find out if the guy you drafted with the 40th pick of the draft is potentially the future quarterback of this team. There's only one way to do that, and that's to throw him out there.
I would say, and this is going to make the Rattler lovers mad, I would say there is a better chance that Tyler Shough starts all 17 games than Rattler. Even if Rattler wins the job to start the season, I don't think, unless it's just, he's this revelation
and they're winning and
they're in the playoff hunt and he's clearly, if that's the case, you ride the wave.
That's correct.
But that's the only situation where I see, because even if you're better than people think, but you're 6-8, you're out of it the last 3 weeks. At some point, you're, like you say, you're going to want to put Shough out there. Let's see what we've got. Because then you need to know if you need to go get another guy. And I will say, for the people who are like, well, throw him out there. Worst thing happens is we go 2-15 and you got the number 1 pick next year. I think that's bad. And I'll tell you what, not just because 2-15 is bad, but what it means is that Kellen Moore whiffed on his hand-picked guy.
Right.
And if Kellen Moore whiffed on his hand-picked guy, that's a red flag about his ability to find the quarterback he wants in the draft. So how do you know he's going to do any better next? Now it's the number 1 pick. Maybe it's obvious and he can't screw it up. But that to me would be a little bit of a red flag about Kellen Moore's ability to pick a quarterback.
Well, the Saints have a top 5 pick next year, which I think right now I'd put the odds at probably 40 to 50%. They have a top 5 pick. You think that's
go lower than that.
Okay.
Top 5 pick, you got to be bad, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, a lot of people think they're going to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah. we'll see. It's hard to.
My point is, if they have that, if they have a top 5 pick next year, then that means quarterback didn't work out, and I think you have to be thinking quarterback. So I mean, unless something is just because, like you say, there is other talent on this team. Alvin Kamara's not coming in to lose this season. Demario Davis isn't sticking around to lose. So I think that if drafted in the top 5, it's because they stunk at the quarterback position, and they're going to have to go out and find one and get one in the draft.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
Yeah, right? It's just hard because when you say top 5 pick, like some years 5 and 12 might get you a top 5.
That's true.
Other years you might have to be 3 and 14 to get a top 5 pick. It just kind of depends. So
that's true. Tom Trice says, "Who Dats will cheer for a winner? Doesn't matter who." That is the truth. I agree with that wholeheartedly. If Spencer Rattler comes in, wins the job, and surprises people and actually holds on to the job because he won, they're going to cheer for him. Conversely, if Tyler Shough is appointed the starter and there are people who are pissed off because they think that Spencer Rattler should have won the job, but Tyler Shough comes in and wins, then they're going to cheer for him and not be upset about who wins the job. So I agree with that. Earl's Pick says, would not be a red flag if he misses his first quarterback pick in his first year as a coach. Talking about Kellen Moore. Not many coaches get it right the first time. You buying into that?
It's a fair point. I'm not saying that it's impossible he could recover from that. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a red flag as far as, are we sure this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks? Again, if you have a top 5 pick, your choices are going to be a lot better. You're choosing between Garrett Nussmeier and Arch Manning and Drew Aller and Lenoris Sellers, and like you got better choices. So maybe I'm just saying I would give a little bit of pause. Like, well, out of everybody he could have traded up for Jackson Dart. They could have taken Shedeur. They could have taken Dylan Gabriel, all these different guys. He wanted Shough. They drafted Shough probably 10 spots earlier than they really had to.
Oh, at least.
Maybe 15 or 20. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they wanted Jackson Dart, but I think the Giants just leapfrogged him and went earlier than.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my point is.
But I hear you.
If he whiffs, it's not saying he can't ever get it right, but it's a little bit of a red flag as far as like, well, you didn't even come close the first time with who you wanted, so maybe I have a little doubt.
Yeah, Rich Marciano says quarterbacks picked in the second round historically don't pan out. So he wouldn't say that Shough not becoming the franchise quarterback is an indictment on Moore. I think you and I both believe that no matter what happens with quarterback this year, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Kellen Moore has got a long leash. He's coming in and he's a young coach, and he's going to be given every opportunity to turn this franchise around.
Yeah, I'd say he's got at least 4 years, unless the first 3 years are just.
I agree.
He goes 2-15 every season or something, and clearly doesn't have it. I think he's got at least 4 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Brian Cavett says every year you miss on a quarterback, you're another 2 to 3 years away from being good. I think that's a little much because if they miss this year, then I just think that sets them back one more year. I don't necessarily think it sets them back 2 to 3 years. I hear what you're saying, Brian. I get it, but if they go and draft, if they got to go through this again next year and they get the right we've seen rookie quarterbacks come in and be great right off the bat. Jaden Daniels last year, CJ Stroud the year before that. I mean, so I don't necessarily agree with that, but look, those are first round guys. So, Rich, when he's talking about second round picks, even though his second round is early second round. So, but regardless, it's still Kellen Moore's guy.
He is, and he's going to get a chance. I mean, I don't know, like second round's weird. There aren't that many quarterbacks taken in the second round.
Yeah,
historically, you've either got the guys that everybody wants and takes in the first round, or they kind of come back and get another bite at the apple in the third, fourth, fifth round. It's not that many. I think at some point we looked, or maybe you guys did a show where you looked at second round QBs. It's not that many. Derek Carr is actually one of the better ones there's been, ironically.
We actually talked, it wasn't just second round picks. Gabe and I think it was Gabe that was with me when we were talking about this. We were talking about quarterbacks that were taken over the past, I forget how long, but first through fourth round. Mm-hmm. And how many that don't start outside of the fourth round. So that's what we're talking about. When I joke and say that the Saints aren't smarter than a fifth grader, Spencer Rattler is a fifth round pick. I mean, this is why, again, I mean, for him to beat the odds and do something that hardly anyone else has done. Yeah, Brock Purdy did it, but to be drafted outside of the top 4 rounds and to become an NFL starter long term, the odds are overwhelmingly against him. And why is he different than anyone else? He's not.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go, second round pick can't. The reigning Super Bowl champions have a quarterback who was coached by Kellen Moore last year, who was drafted in the second round.
Right,
it can happen. It's just that it's just a numbers game. There haven't been nearly as many quarterbacks taken in the second round as there have been in the first or even the third or fourth, I think. Like it's kind of a dead zone for quarterbacks. And so I don't know. I don't think you can just say, oh, second round pick, forget it.
Yeah, you've never been one to care about necessarily those sorts of trends. They're kind of meaningless.
Like every guy's different, every situation's different.
Right. I don't necessarily agree with that, but yeah, I hear you.
Why does the fact that some other guy picked in the second round didn't work out mean anything for Tyler Shough and Kellen Moore? I don't think it means anything.
But here's one. We'll say we could have this argument at a later point because I know you got to go. We got to I got to bring Gabe in, and we got to like 18 minutes left in the show. But here's something that we can have fun with one day because I think trends matter for a reason. Why? And you always ask me, why does that trend matter? I don't know, but it's a trend. It until it doesn't happen, I'm going to bet on a trend, and then when I'm wrong, I'll stop betting on it. So.
Trends mean something when there's a why behind the trend.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's a trend in certain weather, okay, that if a court like Derek Carr had a terrible record in bad weather, that trend means something to me. The ball is harder. Maybe it's harder for him to grip. Maybe he's just not comfortable. Like there could be whys behind that trend.
Right.
The why of a second round quarterback. I mean, the situations are so completely variable. I don't see the why behind the trend, especially when you have examples like Jalen Hurts that you can succeed with a second round quarterback. So
there's a lot of people out there, and I'll just show a couple of them. One of them, Drew was what, a 33rd or 34th pick. He was actually the 32nd pick of the draft. Excuse me. There were 31 first round picks. He was the first pick of the second round.
There you go.
In what, 2000, I think, whatever it was. So he was the second quarterback taken. As I go over Clem, he was the second quarterback taken in that draft behind Michael Vick. Michael Vick was the first quarterback taken. So anyway, there's the answer. Drew Brees was a second round pick, although borderline fringe, is 32nd pick of the draft. That answers your question. All right. Any final thoughts, Zach? Again, I'm going to tell people we told them last week in case they weren't here. By the way, Zach, our show last Friday was the most watched Dattitude we've had in several months. So I've had on Mike Detillier a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I had on Jeff Duncan, who always brings in a lot of people. But yet, Jim Derry and Zach Ewing was the most watched Dattitude we've had in quite a few months. So kudos.
I think it was the Bayou Bets mug.
I think so. I got to bring it back. Next week, I'll bring it back. But Zach and I are going to be on. We don't know exactly what Friday we're going to start. Maybe we'll have you on next Friday after Jim Henderson for just 10 minutes or so just to preview the Chargers preseason game. We'll see how it's going to work. But you're going to be on the Dattitude. It'll be like old days, like the old Bayou Bet show, as we preview whatever Saints game it is that week and who they're playing. And we'll make a Saints prediction. We may not make Saints preseason predictions. Who knows? Because I'm with Gabe. You need to call the number if you're betting on preseason football. But
that's where the edge is, man. That's where the edge is.
That's what you said.
Hey, I'll say this. I will come on next Friday just to celebrate the kids' first day of school.
Oh, no kidding. My kids start on Wednesday. It's the smart start day where they go to school Wednesday and they only go to school Wednesday and A through I don't know.
The other half goes Thursday.
The other half goes Thursday, and the only reason why they do that is because those 2 days actually count as days of school, and they can just write they don't get me started on school systems. I covered the school system up here for 5 years, and anytime they can get out of working, they do. That's a whole different story. I'm not trying to piss you teachers off. I love you. Some of my best friends are teachers, but come on, man. But yes, Friday they start school for real. Everybody goes to school next Friday. So yeah, I'll be celebrating as well. Can't wait. So I will we'll schedule that. You can come on after Jim Henderson. I hope you don't mind.
I'll follow Jim anytime. But
Show number 400.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Jim, I hear Jim's having a few health problems, so I wish him well. I mean,
Yes,
hope
absolutely.
everything's going well with Jim. He's obviously a legend.
I was actually kind of surprised he said yes. So, but I'm excited about that. We'll see him, and we'll see you next Friday. And again, next Friday we'll actually be talking about a real game. I put the bug here in the lower third there, but it's close enough. So we'll be talking about real football coming. Well, sort of next Friday.
All right, let's do it.
All right, see you then. Zach Ewing, everybody. Talking about real game next Friday. Saints will be facing the Los Angeles Chargers out in LA. They will be practicing in LA. I don't know the exact. I'll have to find the days. I'll give them to you next Monday. But they are practicing out in LA next week, part of the time. Do you care about lines? Do we care about lines for preseason game? We put them in there. I mean, I guess we do. To some extent. I'm still going to put them in there. But the Saints are favored. They're 2.5-point favorites for exactly why what Zach said. You will see. I mean, right now, Shough and Rattler, whatever order you want to put them in, are 1A and 1B. We're going to see plenty of them. Anybody who thinks Jake Haener is really going to start. Although, if y'all think these practices really matter and there's really an open competition, Jake Haener was with the ones yesterday and actually did a pretty good job. Nobody's talking about it. Why does his performance not matter? Well, because we know where he's not starting. Because practices, in the grand scheme of things, practice performances, do they really matter? They're not getting hit. They're trying different things. You don't know what they're trying. It's like pitchers in spring training. We talk about, you ever think about that? Baseball fans out there are also football fans. And I know a lot of football fans are not baseball fans at all, so they won't know what I'm talking about. But there are pitchers who get absolutely destroyed in spring training, and they don't care. And you know why? Because they're trying different things. So we talked about Tyler Shough and what he's tried. The first few practices, he's out there in pads, and he's not throwing the ball quick enough. He's not being decisive enough, and people are giving him grief. And then they're giving him grief because he is taking chances. He is being risky, and he throws a couple of picks. He didn't throw any picks before yesterday, and people were getting all fired up. Now they're all fired up because he threw a couple picks, and he stinks, and they should have drafted Shedeur Sanders. There's a reason why, just like Spencer Rattler didn't get drafted to the 5th round, there's a reason why Shedeur Sanders didn't get drafted to the 5th round. And despite what some of y'all may be thinking, maybe it's just because he's not that damn good. Okay? If he ends up being the starting quarterback and proves me, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm wrong. Same with Spencer Rattler. If he ends up being the starting quarterback and he ends up being decisively the starting quarterback and deserves to win the job, does win the job, does a good job, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm wrong. Just like I was the first one to tell you I was wrong about Derek Carr. But I'm not wrong all that often. Just saying. You know who else isn't wrong? Evangeline Securities. They're not wrong. They can help you figure out what your family run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, thank you so much for asking. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline, they will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. And they'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. None, and I mean 0.0, with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed. They're ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. And it's not the quarterback battle. It's not preseason. It's not even the regular season. What's really important is the rest of your life. You can find our friends at www.evangelinesecurities.com. I mean, we're 10 days into camp. Should have drafted Shedeur Sanders. Good Lord. Jim Henderson, that's right. Pigs have flown, baby. A-Town says, quote, still gives him chills. Tom says, if you bet on preseason games, you're wrong. Yeah, I just can't do it. Every now and then, if I'm bored, I'll find, I don't know. And it's hardly ever a line. It's like Gabe and I were talking. Gabe's going to come on in a minute, but maybe some unders every now and then because of trends and preseason. But last year that kind of changed a little bit. And the unders for like 3 years in a row, the unders were gold in preseason. And then last year kind of changed a little bit. Last night we already saw first game. Well, you saw. I didn't see it. All I saw was the score. I actually did look at the box score and see how much Trey Lance played, and it was a lot. Anyway. Okay, I'll show Philip's comment. Okay. Might as well get ready. We've moved on, but still doesn't mean Sanders isn't going to ball in the UFL. Is he going to ball in the UFL? Spoiler alert, he will. I'll give him hell if I want to change what he knows and seen. I don't know what that part means. Again, I'll be proven wrong. If Shedeur Sanders sucks, then I'll be right. If Shedeur Sanders is great and starts, then I'll be wrong. I mean, but to say they should have drafted Shedeur Sanders over Tyler Shough is absurd. Tyler Shough went in the second round. Shedeur Sanders went in the fifth. I don't get it. Don't have to get it, I guess. You know what? You know who gets it? He gets everything. He understands. He knows what we're talking about. It's Friday. It's Gabe Henderson, and he's here on the Dattitude podcast. I mean, am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Tyler Shough.
How the hell do you know that? How could you possibly know that?
Based on what we've seen. Here's the thing. Neither of them are going to be good.
Well, that's probably true.
Putting my foot down, I think it's safe to say neither will be good.
Wait, hold on. Phillips now saying I said the same about Trey. Does he mean?
Are we talking Trey Lance?
Trey Lance is in his fourth season on his third or fourth team. I mean,
We've not seen Trey Lance be good. The last time Trey Lance was
good, he
about
anything.
For North
Exactly.
Dakota State. What are we?
I throw my hands.
Are we now crowning people?
I throw my
decent
crown them.
Hall of Fame game.
Crown them. Crown their asses. Anyway, but
are we really?
Look,
hold on.
I hope I'm wrong about. I hope you know what I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders. I hope he does great. I'm rooting for Tyler Shough. I'm rooting for Spencer Rattler. Certainly rooting for Shough and Rattler. I hope they're both so good. It's hard to decide which one to use because they've both been so damn good. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
I don't think either of them are going to be very good.
Look, the Saints have, and people don't want to hear this, and they hate when I say this, but the Saints have the 32nd ranked quarterback room in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And the bigger problem is 31 is not very close to them. So there's a big gap between 32 and 31. So when you're talking about a quarterback room, this includes the coaches. The quarterback room, which includes former NFL quarterbacks, has 0.0 NFL wins in it. How do you figure out how to win with these? I mean, this is just not. That's why I don't think the future quarterback of this team is in this room. I don't think it's the case. Hope I'm wrong. Just don't think it's the case. Sean says,
here's the thing.
How can we say these quarterbacks won't be good when they haven't played a down of NFL football?
We're not saying they won't. I'm saying I do not believe there's a big difference. I don't speak in definitives. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I am confident in saying this, though. Anyone thinks that Trey Lance is going to be anything other than Josh Rosen at this point in his career, you're insane.
David +1 # says, don't hate on Trey Lance. He's getting paid to having done so little in college. Kudos to him.
He's done so little in the NFL as well.
Yeah. Earl's pick said we'll probably draft another quarterback next year.
Here's where I'm saying you're wrong, Jim. I think it's a bit disingenuous to look at Shedeur Sanders and say he's drafted rounds of Tyler Shough. So they didn't make a mistake because Tyler Shough was drafted in the second. Here's the thing. It's a bit disingenuous to say that without context, because I think we both agree Shedeur Sanders went in the 5th round because people didn't want to deal with all of the trouble off the field. And I say trouble.
He didn't drop that. He didn't drop that far only because of Deion Sanders. He didn't drop that far because of
he didn't. No, he dropped that far because there weren't that many quarterback needy teams this season, or teams willing to take a quarterback this season. along with the baggage, along with the fact that he was vastly overhyped as a prospect. I think when you look at it, he and Tyler Shough are about what and what as prospects. I think that's fair.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm not going to say the Saints. I'm not going to say the Saints made a mistake.
Here's the thing. The only reason why I would push back a little bit on that is because Tyler Shough is going to have more of a chance to be a starting quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. When you're drafted, not only he wasn't even the first quarterback picked by his own team. And so, or do you think that Dillon Gabriel is going to get less of a chance than Shedeur Sanders, even though he was drafted before? I don't. I think I don't mean, is Dillon Gabriel a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders? I have no idea. I mean, you can't just go by what you saw in college. I don't know. I mean, Dillon Gabriel to me had some really good games and he had some really bad ones too. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's going to get that job.
No, I don't either, because in a different sense, so the Saints quarterback room is a mess because they have 0 wins, 0 experience. I mean, they just don't know what they're doing. The Browns quarterback room is a mess because they've got an amalgamation of mediocre talent.
That's been nice.
It is. I mean, they've got 5 or 6 quarterbacks, and they
including
just don't
one that's like 64 years old.
They traded for a couple of them. They're paying another one $300,000 million trillion dollars in guaranteed money. I mean, the amount of money that they're giving Deshaun Watson guaranteed is just absurd.
It's insane. It really is.
And then they drafted 2 guys in the same draft class, the same position.
I don't look.
They're both a mess.
The Saints may have the worst quarterback room. Saints may have the worst quarterback in the NFL. However, I think the Cleveland Browns are just the biggest goofball franchise in the NFL. I don't even know what the word is I want to use. I think goofball is the perfect word. Cluster F of a franchise. So if you said that there's one team that we're going to change, you can't be a Saints fan anymore. You have to root for someone, and we're going to make you pick a team out of a hat, but we'll allow you to take one team out so you don't accidentally pick them. It would be the Cleveland Browns. I would not take a chance. So anyway,
no.
Here he is. He said he's
Philip is leaving.
We're going to miss
Trey
him.
has to start because the media. It's not because he's not a good football player. A spoiler alert.
Phil, miss you, Phil.
Still listening. Coaches do not give a shit what the media says about players. Because their jobs are on the line. They evaluate players based on what they see up close, and every single coach who has seen Trey Lance up close has believed that he's not good enough to start in the NFL. So at this point, he's more Josh Rosen than he is the next Tom Brady.
Hold on. I want to take a moment. This is the moment. I miss Phil already. I mean, I just miss him already. I don't know what we're going to do without him.
I just don't get out of all of the quarterbacks, out of all of the young, because Trey Lance is still young, but he's very quick. He's on the fast track to be Josh Rosen 2.0. Out of all of the young
he's not going to start ever again unless someone gets hurt and they don't have a choice.
No, exactly. Out of all of the quarterbacks to NFL, why are you hitching Lance?
Maybe Trey Lance will get traded to the Browns. That would be interesting. All right, we got to go.
Say that's crazy, but
you never know. Sean says real quick. Some said this is true. Some said that the Rat was going to. Now the Rat wasn't supposed to go in the first round, but I think he was projected to go in like the late second, early third. The Browns
show David's last comment.
David says, "Tell Phil this is not an airport.
Of the week.
He does not have to announce his departure." And here it is.
Look,
hold on.
Phil's still here.
All right, he's still here. So all right, I feel better now. He's still here. He says, "I am bringing us down." What do we call this? Is the realistic podcast. They don't.
Who am I bringing down? I want to know.
They don't like when I poo poo on there.
No, that's a genuine question. I want to know to Phil. Who are we putting down?
Don't bring me down. Have you put that in your top albums, by the way? Don't bring me down. No, never mind. I know. Anyway. All right. Final thoughts before we move on this morning. I mean, now that we've wasted all of our time.
So I'm
talking
not
about
going
ridiculousness.
I'm not going to write off Tyler Shough. I'd be a hypocrite if I did, especially after
You
saying
can.
that Spain. This is the last time I'll address this. Phil, do you know why we know nothing about Trey Lance? Because he spent 4 years riding the bench.
What are you talking about? He played in the rain in Chicago and lost, and then got hurt, and then lost his job to a guy named Brock Purdy, who led him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I will say about Tyler Shough, though. I saw someone similar to the people that you've been talking about with the post. I saw someone, and it was a post meant to kind of dog on him. I think it's a bit harsh, but Tyler Shough, it wasn't. You know how people will take like these fail compilations and they'll cherry pick what videos they want to show. No, I watched someone take every clip available to the media of Tyler Shough in practice, and he played all of them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's worrying.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's because the first 2 minute, like Dunk said, like that. It's because his accuracy is not where you want an to be. And if you're going to attribute in practice,
yeah,
you as a quarterback, you've still got to be accurate.
Practice.
You've got to, and he's just not. That's one of the concerns people had about him coming out of college, and he just doesn't look accurate. Decision making be damn practice, but
I don't disagree with that part of it. The funny thing is
the accuracy worries me.
The people who aren't members of the Dad family and whoever this is their first show or this is their third show and they haven't heard me talk. I'm not a Tyler Shough fan. I thought I don't like the pick. I didn't like the pick when they picked it. I didn't like when we were talking about potentially that this was a pick. I didn't like the pick then. I didn't like it when they made it. I don't like it now. I think they're going to be in this same boat, but I don't think Spencer Rattler is the answer either. I don't think Trey Lance is going to be a starting quarterback. We could say all of these things can be true. I think the Saints are going to be in this exact same boat next April when they go into the draft. If they have a top 5 or even a top 10 pick or whatever it is, I think they're going to be in the same boat, and I think they're going to have to pick whether they do or not. They may be too stubborn to pick a quarterback. They may say, you know what, we're going to stick with what we got because we're right by God. But I just truly believe, and it has nothing to do with, my point is, I don't think we could say definitively anything after 10 days of camp. I think you got to wait and see how this plays out and see what happens when you get in the regular season. But I didn't like the pick when they made it. Don't like it now, but it doesn't mean that I'm right.
I'll tell you why I don't like it. And I'll sign off essentially with this. I do not like teams drafting quarterbacks who have shown us essentially nothing in college.
Yep, I agree.
You can look at guys.
I mean, that would be an argument to why Shedeur Sanders would have been a better pick than Tyler Shough, because obviously Shedeur Sanders did more in college than Tyler Shough did. I mean, there's no question that that's true.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, Tyler Shough bounced around. He had injury issues, and he was always on mediocre teams. If you look at, you can compare him to guys like Josh Allen, but Josh Allen had insane physical traits. He was an incredible runner. He had the strongest arm of any quarterback in his draft class. You can't really say any of those things are true about Tyler Shough. No. I mean, he's tall.
Yeah, he is athletic. And I think one thing that people miss is, the reason why the Rat lovers were rooting for Rattler over Haener last year to be the backup is because they were saying how much more athletic Rattler. Well, Rattler and Shough are pretty what when it comes to athleticism. So now they may be the same accuracy wise too, which isn't good for either one of them.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly when you said, and a lot of people have said this, there are not any answers to the Saints quarterback problems on this roster.
Right, I agree.
In the same place next year.
Yep, I agree. All right, Gabe, we will talk to you. We'll see you on Monday. To be Mono-y Monday. It's just me, you, and all these great commenters, and we can only hope and pray that Philip comes back so we can have some more chats with him. See you Monday.
Sounds good.
A couple more comments. If you want to get a comment in, we got about. I'm already over the time, so we're gonna end this show in about 5 minutes. So you got 5 minutes to get something in. Mitch Bergeron, I have not seen your name before. If you're new to the Dat family, welcome. And like everyone else, we ask you to please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube channel. Give us a like. He says, Mitch Bergeron says, I think any success the Saints have this year will depend on a solid offensive line, good running game, and the defense outperforming expectations. That is the comment of the day. Mitch Bergeron, I agree 100%. I'm excited to see what this offensive line is going to do. I really am. And I said this last night on Final Bet, and I know I said it on Eric Asher show yesterday. It's been a busy week, y'all, as we get running towards football season. The good running game part, who's going to back up Alvin Kamara? We've been talking about that. We're going to dive more into that next week. We talked a little bit about it earlier in the week, but I don't know who my guest is going to be next Wednesday. So next week looks like this. Monday is going to be Mono. Monday is just going to be us. Wednesday, we'll have a guest. I don't know who yet. I will know by Monday, I hope. And then Friday, again, show number 400. Next Friday, Jim Henderson will be here along with Zach and Gabe, and we'll talk a little bit. We'll have a brief preview. We're going to talk to Jim, not about Saints preseason, but we're going to talk to Jim Henderson mostly about the past. And we will, Pigs Have Flown, of course, that will come up. And I'll ask him what he thinks about these current Saints. Does he miss being the voice of the New Orleans Saints? I'm sure he misses it. He probably doesn't miss the traveling and all that goes with it. But I'm sure he misses it somewhat. Anyway, we'll talk to him. Looking forward to that. Charles Mangus, awesome show. JC, where you been? You just joining us? What's up from Denver? I'm glad you're here. Great show on Eric's show last night. Okay. Thank you. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy look, sometimes it's not always convenient to have to stop what I'm doing because obviously I'm trying to get ready. Our NFL previews, by the way, and I'll put this slide up so you can see this. The NFL previews begin on Monday, August 4th. You can only find them. The only place you will be able to find our NFL previews on the Dattitude YouTube page. That is the only place you will find them. They will be done in the form of short. I may put them on my Facebook, my personal Facebook Reels page, maybe. We'll see. But how it's going to work is we will do 2 teams per day. We're going to start the AFC East and the NFC East on Monday. Okay. So, and we're going to go by alphabetical order, which means, and we're going to do AFC in the morning, NFC in the afternoon. So we will start, let's see, who's first in the AFC East? Alphabetically, the Buffalo Bills, I guess, will be first. That will be our first preview. That'll come up in the morning. And what I'll do is I'll go through the team. And at the end of the video, I will give you a prediction. Not necessarily, I'm not going to make a prediction on their record, an exact prediction like I've been doing. I'm not going to make a prediction. I may tell you through the thing, I think they're going to win the division or they have a good chance to win the division or whatever. I'll give you their odds. But mainly what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you their over-under win total, and I'm going to tell you whether I think they will be over or under and whether I'm actually willing to bet it or not. Now, there may be some teams like maybe a team is their over-under is 9.5, and I think they're going to be really close to that, and I say I'm going to predict over or I'll predict under or whatever, but I'm not going to bet it. It's not strong enough. So I'll give you a strength rating, and then at the end of the week, on Friday, and we'll have to do it briefly. Next Friday is going to be a long show, by the way, I think, for show number 400. But what we'll do at the end of the week is Gabe will come on, and he will tell me whether he thinks I'm right or more likely tells me that I'm wrong. So we're looking forward to that. JC was in Boulder. Okay, well, did you see Mork and Mindy? I doubt you saw Mork. Mork's back in Ork. There's no doubt. Oscar wants me to make sure I put it on Facebook. All right, Oscar, I'll put it on my Facebook Reels page, which means you're going to have to come and find me on Facebook, and you can follow me on Facebook, and I'll put them on there. I guess some people just don't want to do YouTube. I understand. Brian says, don't get excited about the D success they're practicing against what may be a bottom 10 offense. Yeah, that's okay, though. Do we think the Saints? Yeah, they probably will be a bottom 10 offense. I think that's fair to say. Anyway, we'll see. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us. We We're right at the 140 mark, and that's been my max. I like to end it at 130, but we went 10 minutes longer today. We had a lot of good stuff to talk about. If you didn't see this earlier, you go back and watch. If you missed the first part of the show, and I'm going to show this one more time, our dome picks. A special section in the Advocate and the Times-Picayune on Sunday. It's going to be celebrating 50 years of the Superdome. And I just love that. The reason why I made it so big on the left, the biggest picture is when they were building. That is literally one of my earliest memories. And yes, I use the word literally. I hate when I do that. Extraneous words. I'm really not fond of them. But every now and then I slip one in. The Superdome building, I remember crossing the bridge, every other, once a week or whatever. And what did they do this week? What piece did they put up this week? And watching it be built was fantastic as I was just a little kid looking out the window, going across the Pontchartrain Expressway. So, yeah, the Dome turns 50 this week. It's hard to believe, man. It is. I mean, do y'all remember the early days of the Dome when you'd be sitting at the top of the terrace and you had to look through a plume of cigarette smoke to see the bottom? And because, I don't know, when did they cut off smoking in the Dome? It had to be late 80s, early 90s, I guess. Maybe not until the 90s. But if you were sitting at the top of the Dome, and you could see the inside of the Dome on my screen. This picture was taken, I think, before a preseason game, maybe 2 years ago, from the press box. Another way, the press box used to be in the loge or right below the loge. They turned those into suites and kicked us upstairs. But if you're old like me, and you were a kid, you remember watching games where you had to not only breathe in the cigarette smoke at the top of the terrace, but look through it. It almost looked like the Fog Bowl. Remember the Bears-Eagles playoff game? Yeah, it looked like that almost every week. Anyway. Brian says, another great show. Have a great weekend. To the Dattitude, absolutely, Charles Mangus. Have a great weekend, Dattitude family. Again, our NFL previews begin on Monday, August 4th. We'll do them every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll do them as shorts, and then Gabe and I will talk about them on Friday. Our show is here live. We're live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the same YouTube page. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, we encourage you. We would love you to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can find me on bet.nola.com. You can find Zach and the Saints Insiders on nola.com/Saints. You can find Gabe Henderson, sportsbookreview.com. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast. If you just want to listen and you don't want to see my ugly mug, I completely understand. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show, as always, on NOLA.com/sports. It is August, my friends. Real football time. Have a wonderful, glorious weekend. We will see you on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.